Hey everybody, it's Chris Caddo, your Chief Performance Partner and the author of Premiership Business. Now, the question I have for you today is, what do you think is a critical skill, a critical business skill to get ahead in business? Now, what's one skill which all the business owners who are doing well for themselves, what do they tend to have? Now, you might say, when you're thinking about that, when I put that question to you, you might say, well, the ability to communicate your product and services. Yes, absolutely. That is one of the great skills that a business owner needs to have. Or you might say, the ability to motivate your staff. Absolutely. That is another great skill the business owner needs to have. Or some of you might say, do you know, the ability to analyse the numbers and to make the right decisions. Decision making is clearly one of the core skills. However, today specifically, there's one skill which I want to talk to you about, which is perhaps above those skills. And that is, and it's a critical skill, and that is the ability to think for yourself. Now, as simple as that sounds, it plays a critical role in getting ahead in your business, particularly when you align it with your level of competence. The level of competence that you have in your business, the understanding of your business and your industry. If you've got great understanding of your industry and you can think for yourself, you're miles ahead. You're miles ahead. Why? Why do you need to think for yourself? Now, let me give you two examples. Marketing, and these are completely unrelated, marketing and financial markets. And the reason why they're unrelated is what will help me emphasize this ability to think for yourself and how critical it is. So, marketing. Look at all these different areas of marketing. And particularly in small to medium-sized businesses, the marketing profession in that area is probably the most fragmented profession of all the service groups for small to medium-sized businesses. Now, why is that? Why? Because what you have is you have people who specialise in different areas. There's people who specialise in web design, people who specialise in SEO, print media, videography, copywriting, graphic design. So what happens then is that you get people who are just dealing in their own little bubble. And rightly so, they'll tell you that you need their services to get ahead. However, there's one thing that you need to bear in mind, and that is, how do you actually generate revenue in your industry? If you know that, you've got that competence and you can think for yourself, you can cut out a lot of noise here, because in many industries, you don't need half the services to get ahead. Let me give you a couple of examples. In my book, Premiership Business, on page 81, I talk about its sales and marketing cube. Whereas if you've got a product which is low price, something like a chocolate bar, you can get away with selling that product on great packaging and great advertising material. Why? Because it's low risk. People are just going to spend a couple of dollars. If they don't like it, it doesn't matter. It doesn't mean much to them. If they like it, great. If it's a great product, I'll buy more, and you're off and you're running and you're doing really well. However, they've bought it on the back of great packaging and great advertising and marketing collateral. However, if you were selling a Boeing 777, let's say, you can have the advertising collateral and the marketing collateral. However, you're not going to close the deal on marketing collateral. Why? Because it's such a high price and such a complex item to buy. You need the sales staff to build the relationships and talk about all the complexities associated with that 777. The engines, the seats, the layout of the cabin, the routes it's going to fly, how heavy it needs to be to take off for certain routes, and whatever else, the staffing, the training, the fleet management, the maintenance. It just goes on and on. It's so complex that you need to have a great personal selling relationship. So in sales and marketing, there's always an element of just pure marketing, and there's always an element of sales. But if you understand your industry and you've got that competence in the industry and you can think for yourself, you can cut out a lot of the stuff here that you actually don't need, or you need very little of. And you can think for yourself and make those decisions and not get distracted and spend money where you don't actually need to. The second example is financial markets. Now, why is it important to think for yourself in financial markets? Let me give you a couple of examples. How about the dot-com crash, 2000, or the GFC crash, 2000? What was the underlying problem there? So if you had a pension fund or you had a superannuation fund and you're thinking to yourself, I lost a bit of money back then. That's right. And you might think, I got some really bad advice from my financial manager. That may well be the case, but what happened with that financial manager? They weren't thinking for themselves, were they? They had this herd mentality. They were running towards what they thought was, what they were told was a good place to invest. However, what the problem was, there was no underlying value. there was no underlying value. That .com company wasn't generating the income and the profits to justify the share price. And eventually they realised that some of these .com companies are never going to generate the income to justify their share price. So it all comes tumbling down. How about the GFC? Subprime mortgages, giving loans to people who fundamentally can't afford them. And then what did the banks do? The banks created derivative products, which basically means they packaged up all these bad loans and sold them again to somebody else who did not have the competence in the area, did not even understand what these subprime products were and couldn't think for themselves. Why? Because they didn't have the competence. So you had councils, government entities, pension funds, all these entities and even corporations who invested in these derivative products and lost their money. Why? Because they didn't have the competence and didn't understand that there was no underlying value and didn't think for themselves. Because if they thought for themselves, had the competence and understood that there was no underlying value in a subprime mortgage, they would have never bought it, they wouldn't have lost their money. So that, in business, I'm trying to give you an example of how important the ability to think for yourself and have that competence, it's critical. It's absolutely critical to get ahead in small to medium-sized enterprises. And the business owners who can think for themselves and have a great competence in what they do, absolutely kick ahead. So my question to you is, how can you improve your competence? And are you thinking for yourself? Have you got the confidence? And if you don't have the competence in a particular area, who have you got that you can trust to give you the appropriate advice you understand, has been consistent over a long time, who understand their culture and their communications, and that they've got your best interests in mind to give you the right advice going forward? So have a think about that. How can you improve your ability to think for yourself? How can you link that up with your competence of your industry to get ahead? So that's today's video, and I hope you can take that away and have a think about, look, where can I improve? How can I improve the performance of my business by having a greater handle and making better decisions on my behalf? Why? Because remember, you only have to be competent. You don't have to be an expert in all the fields in your business. You just need to be competent so you can think for yourself and make the right decisions. So I hope you enjoyed that. Please comment. I'd love to be able to write some comments back and read what you've got to say and your feedback in regards to this video and interact. Subscribe, like the video if you've enjoyed the outline of the ability, a critical business skill to think for yourself. And remember, darkness is the first enemy of mankind. So surround yourself with people who enlighten your world. Bye for now.